Hello, everyone, and welcome to this bonus episode of the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, episode number 164, all about the Kaplan coaching program partnership with Amazon Career Choice. So a panel of fine folks from Kaplan on for this episode to talk all about this partnership and why is it important. So really grateful for this conversation as somebody who really supports the really positive impacts that support coaching can have, especially for adult online learners and folks that are continuing their education in all sorts of ways after maybe stopping out or being away for a long time. So definitely check out in the show notes more information about this program and Kaplan, and connect with our guests and stuff to keep this conversation going about this effort and the things that they mentioned as resources, all in the show notes there for you. So as always, please take our listener survey, check out our merch store, support the show, share it out with your colleagues. Just appreciate you all listening and supporting the show. So without further ado, this is bonus episode number 164. With Rachel Bork, David Roman, and Therese Tammy. I am super pleased to be joined by a wonderful panel of guests for our podcast here today. So a kind of supersized episode talking about the recently announced partnership between Amazon and Kaplan, supporting employed students to have coaching resources available to them as they pursue their higher education and kind of whatever that looks like for them. So certainly something that's near and dear to my heart. I love talking about this stuff, and I think this is just a really great sort of model and sort of place to kind of start this conversation to hopefully really drive home the strategies that are necessary to really kind of move the needle for employed students to utilize their tuition benefits that are available to them and, you know, move their careers forward and all that good stuff. So we will start out as we always do with our guests, all of them kind of briefly introducing themselves and their professional backgrounds, how they got to be where they are today. So we will start with you, David, then go to Therese, and then to Rachel.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dustin. Appreciate it. Thank you for having us on. My name is David Roman. I am one of the leaders that helped train the Kaplan coaching team and now helps lead them operationally. I've actually been with Kaplan for roughly 14 years now, and the focus throughout my entire career has been on managing teams that explore what students' career aspirations and needs are and helping them navigate the world of higher education. Which you obviously know is very fluid these days. And, in order to help them find a program that's going to benefit them best in the future.
Hello, Dustin. I'm Therese Tammy, Associate Director of Admissions with Kaplan. I've been with Kaplan for over 13 years in the higher education, and I have supported many teams, and currently I am supporting the coaching team here at Kaplan. And I also have supported other employee benefit teams here at Kaplan as well.
Hi, Dustin. This is Rachel Bork. I am the VP of Corporate Learning Solutions at Kaplan. I lead a corporate learning solutions team. Our mission is to help organizations build a workforce that is prepared for the future of work. Most recently, I was responsible for spearheading the relationship and strategy behind Kaplan's partnership with Amazon, which is supporting obviously associates with advising, coaching, and career services as part of the Career Choice Education Benefit Program. But I've got over 20 years experience partnering with organizations on the design, development, delivery, and administration of meaningful education and learning experiences. I'm very focused on outcomes for businesses and looking forward to having a long tenure at Kaplan. I just joined a little bit less than a year ago. So I'm a bit of a newbie.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess in comparison to some of your colleagues here, but yeah, thank you all for coming on and hanging out and talking about all this stuff. Because like I said, it's something that I'm really passionate about. Really love to see stuff like this kind of popping up in the higher ed ecosystem. But, you know, we have seen, thankfully, a lot of kind of growth and development in this space of employer tuition benefits, how they're sort of, you know, uplifting their own employees and helping them to move their careers and lives forward and everything. And, you know, historically, it has been sometimes like a just sort of like we've built it, they will come, and, you know, whoever uses it, uses it. But, you know, thankfully, there's been a lot more focus and models like this where there is sort of that suite of supports offer to these students to make sure that they find the right fit program and have the supports they need to be successful. And so Rachel, we'll kind of just stick with you for this question though. Just if folks aren't aware, if you can just explain a bit about this newly announced partnership between Amazon and Kaplan, just so folks kind of have that context.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, Amazon's program is actually really interesting. The career choice benefit has been around for about 10 years this year, in fact. But it started out as probably a, pretty unique educational benefit, and it's continued to expand. Obviously, they made some announcements last year on their continued investments into the program
Hmm.
and the expansions of the program. And part of that was, really leaning into the needs of what are good advising, coaching, student experiences like. What is a good student support service structure? And so Kaplan was announced as a partner of Amazon, and we will be providing essentially services and along advising, coaching, and career services to students throughout their journey in regards to taking advantage of the education benefit program known as Career Choice. So there's about 750,000 eligible Amazon associates who could take advantage of this program. And our role is to support them throughout their entire journey, including, taking advantage of English as a second language programs, GED or high school equivalency programs, programs that are, certification, 2-year degree programs, as well as the 4-year degree programs. And we really support, that student throughout that entire journey. So, from assessing their skills and sort of helping them determine, where they want to go in terms of their future, their career, their job aspirations, through getting into the right program. And then upon completion of that program, really helping them to hone in on what does it mean to now pursue something in that area. And so that is helping them with the job aspect of it, and really sort of connecting education to job and preparing those folks from a, skills development perspective, resume reviews, social media profiles, networking, mock interviews, et cetera, to help them connect to that job. So we are essentially pulling that thread of I'm interested in education to getting into education to now I want to get a job in this area. And we're helping Amazon sort of pull that thread with their associates all the way through.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I appreciate you noting too that like it's kind of the whole spectrum. It could be a GED, it could be a bachelor's, it could be, you know, other certificates and credential different things. So like, you know, right, like that's almost even like that first step of like what do you need? What are you looking for? How can we get it to you? And then like how can we make sure that you're successful in completing it? And then yeah, like kind of set you off on your journey wherever that might take you once you've completed that. So I think that's something that I've been reading about where like, sometimes there's even now like so much of a focus where like I think there's a lot of work to be done, and like obviously the value of a college degree is, pretty firmly set and known, but like there are so many people that still need other things to even get to that point, or that's not exactly what they're, looking for or needing or wanting in terms of just other credentials or education. There's boot camps and like just all these other things. So just having uh sort of all those different options, and then having all sorts of supports where, yeah, these could be people who have never gone to college at all, never studied online, just been out of school for a long time, and you know kind of fitting the support to what they need to be successful in whatever they're pursuing. So um, that's kind of where I want to take us next, though. It's just sort of this coaching resource that's pretty all inclusive, not just coaching or advising or career services. It's sort of a little bit of everything. So we'll go to both you, David and Therese. We'll start with you, David, and then go to you, Therese. Of just from your point of view, and if there's anything sort of anecdotally that's kind of informing your perspective, but what to you makes this coaching resource for these employed students so important?
Yeah, so the services cover coaching for both the educational and career goals, right? And one of the biggest barriers towards progress in these areas that was cited was that associates regret their choice in program or school. So
Mhm.
obviously, if you start out with the wrong program or school, you're going to be setting yourself up for potential failure. By offering the coaching services, obviously the intent is to make sure that we're at the right starting point, that we're talking through the associate's career aspirations from beginning to end. We have a very in-depth kind of formula where we first want to discuss what the understanding that benefit, making sure that the associate truly understands what it is that's available to them, how that component works and how it operates, having a vision of what career advancement looks like for them, right? So really understanding what their interests are, what their aptitudes are, and in many instances, they may not know, right? So we have to kind of explore and discover those items with them, and really start to develop a plan on how they're going to use the benefit, take into consideration those interests and the aptitudes, and start to develop a path for them, right? And then we have to kind of go through the school and program selection. There are so many different areas here. You had mentioned earlier as well. Not the path for everybody is going to be a little bit different, right? So understanding what those offerings are, how they stack, understanding the resources that are going to be available to them, taking into consideration the modality, and really choosing the school or the program that's going to fit their needs, and then taking it a step further and really making sure that after all those steps are complete, that they're willing and they're able to complete this program. They have clarity on what that actual commitment is, right? Because to be able to talk through that and see what it truly entails is extremely important, and accounting for all the potential challenges that may come about, and then mapping that out, having a schedule, having an academic plan, knowing what all the access points are for academically and from a financial standpoint. So those are the key components of this, and the ideal outcome. What makes it so important is we really want to achieve that lifelong learning experience, and have them progress as far as whether it's from a college credit standpoint, earning credits and working towards a degree or a certificate, whether it's a pathway program that's a shorter program that gets them to an end goal of potential job placement inside or outside of Amazon, and the career advancement piece that you spoke to as well. All these things, for all these reasons, this is extremely important to put these resources in place to individuals that may not have that already or may not have experienced these items, in order to really know what it's like to develop that plan.
And I want to add, what we do, we're impacting, these employees' lives every day. David talked about, the plan to get them there, but what about the bumps in the road? That's what we're here as coaches. Things may happen, the obstacles may come up, and who are they to call, for that extra support? And that's what our coaches are here. The second part of the program is to make sure they are successful. And when they need additional support, that we're here to, for them to reach out to, for them to have another line where they may not have anyone in their social circle or family circle to really rely on when they need a little bit additional support, or if they're struggling in a course, or where to get the resources to look for another job, how to do a resume, what the social aspect of their social profile and social media with those resources such as LinkedIn. And our coaches are here to hold their hand where needed and provide the support and answer any questions when they have no one else.
Yeah, that's really great to hear, because I think these our students again, they may just be totally unfamiliar with all the sort of kind of complexities and just sort of unique aspects of navigating higher education. And yeah, it unfortunately can be like all well and good to like plan everything out and do all that, but then like yeah, these students could be going at their own pace and studying over years to complete a bachelor's, for example. And it's like yeah, like life is going to have hurdles and hiccups and friction and all that. So whether it's just encouragement, motivation, organizational tips, or trying to get connected with uh, whatever kind of supports are needed to say like, how can I, get done quicker, like what classes should I take and those sort of things. Like there's just so much that goes into it that again, I'm just glad to see, I think what's sort of a maturation of these employer tuition assistance programs where, they are seeing more of a value in investing and sort of like, okay, how are we going to help students find the right fit program at the right institution, the right modality, and all those sort of things, and help to make sure that they actually persist and are successful. Because I think I've seen often people talk about just how difficult it is for working adult learners with families and all these things to kind of, navigate higher ed. And I think for institutions to better live out their values, they need to uh, do more to, make sure that they kind of contour the support to those students that they need. So, um, going to you, Rachel, for this one. So, this is sort of a recently announced venture of, this exact kind of coaching support and everything for these students. So, at this outset, just curious, whatever sort of metrics or just ideas that you have of like, what you hope to achieve with this program and this partnership.
We want to see associates, achieve their goals and aspirations. We want to help them live their best lives. And if that is through, getting into an educational program that is, tied to their skills and abilities, is what they've, sort of dreamt about doing that they never had the means to do, succeeding in that program, ultimately achieving that job, finding a job within Amazon once they complete their programs or even outside of there. I mean, I want to see more and more and more employees achieve those goals and aspirations, right? I think just, as you think about statistically, the world of work has just completely changed post pandemic. We're sort of all in this new world of work together, and the rule books are being rewritten. I think it's really interesting that, Amazon has this vision, for their associates to be able to live their best life, and really helping them do it and helping sort of pull the thread and complete it, where they're using the educational programs to get to those jobs and careers. And so as you think about that sort of in magnitude, I mean, our goal is for Amazon to find success in the work that we're doing, is, for the associates to find success, for us to see it obviously in mass, right? We want to help lots of people, get to that point. And there's even the smaller wins, right? You kind of said it initially upon introduction, just throwing a benefit out there and hoping it sticks. Educational programs and educational benefits at the corporate level have been around for some time. This isn't sort of a new thing, but I think it has been, it's been a nice to have, not necessarily a need to have, and it's becoming much more of a need to have, because more and more studies are showing that employees are choosing employers for the development opportunities. They're choosing employers for the growth opportunities. And so it's becoming less about pay and less about other things, and more about, hey, I want all these other things to help me live my best life, right? And as we evaluate what the individual needs when they come to work, and what they feel about their employee and what they think about their employer, the benefits really have to sort of match that. And so it is sort of a transformation in the educational benefit, because it can deliver so much value and impact to an organization if you look at the ROI, and if you look at what the investments can do for their individuals, as a whole. So, I'd love to see, obviously, this partnership continue to blossom. We want to obviously help as many people as possible, get to that next step, choose the right program. Um, a lot of times I've worked in the educational assistance space for many, many years. You see a lot of employees that choose the degree that they think is going to get them somewhere, and they're not necessarily happy with it. Um, it's not necessarily the right fit for them. And so what we're doing is sort of taking it a step further. We're using skills assessments to really determine where somebody would have a good ideal fit in the future, what those career options look like, and how do we align the educational programs to them. And Amazon has just done a brilliant job of curating, a nice mix of educational institutions and opportunities to align to those. And it's ever growing. It's continuously, sort of moving and expanding. But there's a lot of strategy behind that, and that is to help meet the needs of everybody. So success to me looks like, lots of people getting into the right programs, getting into the right jobs, ultimately getting into the right careers, and for Kaplan to sort of be along for the ride with that, and obviously helping that
Mhm.
process and facilitating it.
Well, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of like a spectrum of metrics. I think that, anybody looking at this would want to see just like, yeah, like people like engaging, like requesting information and all that. Like you'd want to see sort of just like a consistent flow of people kind of starting in that process. You'd want to see people enrolling in programs. You'd want to see people graduating from those programs. You'd want to see people, experiencing some sort of career shift improvement from that credential and all that. So it's like, yeah, you kind of want to see like, okay, yeah, like people are kind of moving down the pipeline, and, they're moving through programs, and it could be again where it's like it's still successful, even though it's like, yeah, we have a lot of students enrolled, but it's like, yeah, we know probably there's going to be some people that might take 5-6 years to complete a bachelor's because they need to obviously still work full time and take just like fewer courses spread out over a longer period of time and all that. So it's like, graduating, finishing programs is certainly important, but just seeing, yeah, just like, okay, like, because these students are better supported and guided through the whole process, like we're just seeing a lot more utilization uh, of this benefit, and it to sort of like further bold and underline too. So like I hope honestly to be able to cover this maybe a little bit more in depth in a future episode. It's pretty like straightforward as to like why like it's a valuable thing, but I'm also seeing that there's like a recently announced partnership where obviously yeah a lot more employers are seeing sort of the kind of requirement, the necessity to invest in these sort of tuition assistance programs. But now that there are like childcare tuition benefits as well. So it's like, it could be that thing where it's like, yeah, like I'm going to get my college paid for. And to help me actually do that, like my company's also paying for my kid to go to daycare, or like just the idea of like getting that sort of like the pre-K and the sort of like educational opportunities for young children and stuff too. Like it's just, great to see, because like sometimes some buildings like they have like a daycare on site or something, but just the idea that it's like, here, like take this, X amount of dollars to, put your kid in, a daycare of your choosing, and opening it up to, on-site hybrid remote employees and stuff. So like, almost kind of seeing something like this, almost modeling the way for just like, just giving more benefits to more employees and, their families and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's just, it's incredible. And I think, we've covered on the podcast, I feel like portions of this, of just like that top of the funnel of like how important it is for students to choose the right program, the right place and the right modality and all that. And talking about, you know, student support stuff. So it's just really cool to kind of seeing it all fit together in this sort of uh I mean, it's a very large microcosm. I was going to just say, like, in this, own little tiny thing is like, it is hundreds of thousands of employees, so like, it's pretty big. But yeah,
A
yeah,
little big.
yeah, just a little bit. It's a little big, right?
I will add, I think one thing that's really unique to Dustin about us when you think about it is we've thought about the student and what the student needs and what does the employee as a student need, because they're an employee first and a student second, right? And I think that's the way to think about educational benefits programs in general. You have to cater to somebody needing to get a paycheck, that you have to cater to somebody that has to work in order to, kind of get to the next steps, right? But I think what's really, really interesting about this angle, if you think about it, is that we cannot assume that somebody just innately has the know-how how to navigate job boards, getting another job. What are the skills required
Hmm.
for an interview? What are the skills required to sort of go through that process? And I think, the assumption has been they need help sort of getting into programs, which is 100% true. But then we can't assume that those skills were developed along the way, or that they have them, right? It takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of mentorship and coaching in that process. Think back to getting your first job and what that experience was like. Did you feel like you had all the skills needed to go get that job, right? And what that meant. And so what I think is really cool about Amazon is sort of they're putting the extra sort of 1-2 punch in there, which is, you've got the certificate, you completed the program, you got what it takes to sort of get this career. Now let us help you go get it, right? But it does require some skills to go do that. And so they're really rounding it out. And I think that's one of the things that makes the approach super unique compared to other educational benefit programs, because it's not enough to just sort of throw it out there and hope it sticks, right? You've got to do more for the individual. And like I said, it's, the rule book for employee engagement, employee management, workforce development, everything's being rewritten. And benefits are really sort of blossoming as something that is helping organizations win, but we still have a long ways to go, right?
Hmm.
We still have so far to go, in terms of what it really takes to sort of get to the next level with our employees, and what is it that they need. The educational benefits, I think, is a huge area. It's just such a substantial investment for so many companies. How do you make sure that it's doing the right thing for your organization? How do you make sure it's doing the right thing for your employees? What's the benefit? What's the value to them? Is the educational investments that you're making as an employer and an individual actually being used, right? So how do you sort of get to that point, and how do you help people find what their next is, whatever that
Hmm.
is, right? And it could be a certificate, it could just be a high school equivalency, it could be more, right? It could be the degree, it could be the secondary degree. What does that look like, and how do you continue sort of thinking about what individuals need? Amazon has done something pretty cool with their benefit. I'd love to see obviously more employers take that lead too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's kind of segues perfectly, take away part of what you're going to say in there of like, because I want to try to have some actionable advice and takeaways here for other hired leaders working in this space. But just kind of what you were saying about like challenge those assumptions about, again, like what these students know and don't know. And yeah, from everything, yeah, resumes, job boards, interviewing, just being a student, being organized and, working, with others in a learning community and all this sort of stuff. So I think that's great advice. But so we'll get back to you, Therese, and then to David for this as well. Of just advice that you would give from your experience here, to other higher ed leaders working in this space, supporting adult learners who are going back to school and everything.
Well, I would think one thing is to make sure that they have a team that is as dedicated and has a passion for learning. The team that we have put together for coaches here at Kaplan have various experience in higher education, and they all want to support students, wants to see, the lives of others improve. If it's from the first person in their family being a high school graduate to earning that job, that career that they've always looked for. And it comes down to the team that are coaching, that are talking to these students to provide them that support. And, we celebrate the wins. And I just always love hearing the excitement in a coach's voice when the outcome is there. When we have someone who has earned a job outside of Amazon, and we've also had wins of inside Amazon, and it was all due to the efforts of them, doing mock interviews and the support they have through the whole entire process. So it all comes down to, making sure that you have the right team in place that has the passion that's needed to be successful.
And I would also pay attention to the needs of all learners, right? Amazon has acknowledged that not all the employees necessarily want to stay there forever, but they have hopes and dreams and aspirations that education and lifelong learning can help them achieve. So this has to be taken into consideration. They've done a great job in doing so. So for those that are staying within the organization, we're going to give them the skills that they need, and we're going to help them develop a plan to get there. So they really want to connect people to that opportunity, whether that's within Amazon or outside of Amazon. Students more so than ever are coming from diverse backgrounds and circumstances. So, I think the advice really is, what does that individual need if they're a first generation American and don't have a social circle to support them through things like college admissions, putting a resume together, interviewing. What does this individual need if they are an adult learner? What does the individual need if they're a single mom or dad working two jobs? How do you engage and work with these populations? So, what I really would say is these things all need to be taken into consideration and really think about from a higher ed perspective, how are you currently operating? How can you make the adjustments to meet this diverse set of needs? And obviously as a higher education institution, your primary goal is to provide a high quality level of service. So how do you do that when taking all of those things into consideration?
Yeah, that's good stuff. And I mean, yeah, just having the right team. And I think, yeah, thinking through intentionally all those things that you mentioned, David, like that's kind of just the idea of like kind of design thinking of understanding like, okay, like who are the people that are coming in to these learning environments and how can we um, try to just sort of expect or predict, what they're going to need or just try to be as accessible as possible to anticipate that, yeah, this may be somebody who is going to be trying to look for support at an odd hour because, they're, doing it after work and different things like that. But, yeah, I mean, it just takes, great tools and platforms, but also just, yeah, a great team, a committed team, and, people that are, yeah, excited at the opportunity to, help these employees to pursue whatever credential they're looking for. And, just working as a coach before too, it's like, just trying to ask those right questions, yeah, figure out like, what are they worried about? What are they excited about? And, where can you, yeah, give that high level of service and say like, hey, here's all this like great information. Like, here's ways to get in contact with me and, all that stuff. And it just sort of helps them hopefully feel at ease before going on, this academic journey and everything. But, yeah, it's just great advice. And we always like to also share resources. So maybe just kind of one big ticket item from each person on here. It could be anything: podcast, books, articles, on this topic, anything that's kind of catching your attention right now. But we'll go from David to Therese to Rachel.
I am a huge, habits person. So there's a book that I'm not sure if you've read or not, but happens to be one of my favorites. I've read it a bunch of different times, but it's called Atomic Habits. Great book, and it's about systems, right? It's about the little things that you do and how they play a role into long-term systems. And the way I kind of related to this is from a coaching perspective. You know, the advice that we give individuals and how we work with them achieving those long-term goals are all built off of small habits, and the way that we can help kind of identify what they're doing now and how we can help them transition into those right habits that lead to progression and to completion within whatever it is they're doing, whether it's a degree, whether it's a certificate program, whether it's a career advancement move. I think that that's a huge piece of that. And I think a lot of times people fail because they're not able to implement the right systems, right? Everyone has goals that they're looking to achieve, but if the right systems are in place, they can't get to that end goal. So just a little bit of a plug unintentionally there, but it's a great book. And I think it's a good resource.
Yeah, I'm not sure of a specific resource, but I randomly listen to podcasts like this when I work out. I just put something on and just listen to different tips on what needs to be tweaked. I do a lot of things when it comes to like time management and how to juggle career and family life. And I just think nothing specific, but just, the world of the internet, you could just Google what you're looking for, and there's always a podcast or something to listen to.
That is a great tip. I definitely advocate for that as well, keeping a pretty diverse diet of podcasts. So that is a good recommendation.
I'll make a little bit of a pivot here. When I think about organizations sort of considering the value of an educational benefit program, there's a couple resources out there that I would always direct people to say, hey, if you are interested in sort of the value of an education benefit program and you are a corporation considering investing in this, or you've got a program and you're really curious to know outcomes and how you're driving your business forward in terms of employee retention, recruitment, employee engagement, et cetera, et cetera. Two sources that I would recommend. The Lumina Foundation has done a fantastic job studying programs over multiple years and producing research on the value of programs of various organizations and various industries, and the investment that those educational programs have contributed to an organization's bottom line. So phenomenal research that's out there. I think if anybody, doesn't know how to justify that investment, there is proven research that there is a definite ROI for an organization for every dollar they spend in an employee's educational journey. So what I would encourage you to download the reports, go to the Lumina Foundation. There's several of them. They're free. And they are, laid out really easy to understand business cases that I think could help you propel you forward. And then, of course, there is the Upskill America, which is part of the Aspen Institute. But Upskill America has been, evaluating these programs and benefits and really sort of becoming, sort of the soapbox here for employee educational benefit programs and the value that they can deliver for organizations. And so those are two really great resources as you think about your journey, as you think about potentially building out a program, or if your program should lead to, greater value for your business. There's certainly some good research out there to help justify your business case.
Yeah, perfect. All good stuff. We'll link out to in the show notes as usual. But as we wrap up this episode, we always like to kind of just give the floor to our guests here. So with a final thought or call to action to end the episode with. So we will go Rachel, David, and then end with Therese.
I'm happy to close out. So, yeah, I would say, we're obviously very excited about this partnership. There's, more to come for sure. But, Kaplan is one of the largest education and learning companies in the world. We support over 1 million students a year. We are really focused on helping individuals get to their next, whatever that may be, and helping people live their best lives. We're very fortunate to obviously be associated with this program, and we are just very excited. As Therese and David had both mentioned, we've seen students um, get to the next step in a small way and in a large way, and we want to be there for that ride for Amazon associates. And so, as you think about this going forward, we'll be excited to share more information and talk with you again as this progresses. But it's a very unique partnership, and certainly something other companies should consider as they roll out an educational benefit program.
And I don't have a lot to add to that, Dustin, but like you, I know you have a background in coaching, and a large portion of my career has been in this arena. And I'm just super grateful for this opportunity that we've had, and really just helping the individuals to achieve whatever their goals may be. Each and every day, we come together as a team, and we have an opportunity to change their lives in a positive way. And there's nothing better than that, than really just having that light bulb go off when you're having the interactions and building that relationship in, getting the plan to the end goal, whatever it may be, and then having that fulfillment after. There really is nothing better. And I'm just grateful for, being a part of this whole journey.
And I have to agree with you, David. We are impacting the lives of these people to obtain something that at one point it may have only been a dream. And to be part of that, and to be part of, what we're doing here at Kaplan to support those individuals that work at Amazon is just incredible. And it's just an honor every day to help these employees to do better, to better themselves. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you all for doing the work and for hanging out and sharing all that you did. And I think that it's just a great place to end, though. Sort of the gratitude and the humility of kind of doing this important work. And obviously, it's for many people, in education, that internal motivator that keeps us going. And obviously, it's something we try to nurture with our students as well, of just knowing sort of that core of why they're doing this, and looking at that outcome at the end. That's such a just incredible benefit for students to achieve, and to move their lives forward and everything. So thank you all again, and we'll have ways again to connect with you all and this partnership to learn more about and everything in the show notes. But yeah, just thank you all again.
Thanks, Dustin.
Thanks, Dustin.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Higher Ed Geek podcast.